let's talk about something that gets nearly every single trader, whether you're just starting out or you've been at this for years. We're going to dive into the single biggest emotional mistake you can make. And trust me, this one thing costs traders more money than all the bad strategies and bad tips in the world combined.
So, what do you think it is? What's the thing that really drains trading accounts? Is it some complicated option strategy gone haywire, picking the wrong company, chasing some hot stock you heard about online? Nope. The truth is, it's a lot simpler and way more personal than that.
The thing is, it's not about having a bad strategy. In fact, it has almost nothing to do with your strategy at all. You can find a million decent strategies online for free. The real reason so many people lose money isn't because they don't know what they should do, it's because they can't get out of their own way.
Okay, so let's put a name to it. Let's get right into the heart of this silent portfolio killer, the one mistake that can literally wipe out months of hard work in just a few bad decisions. And here it is. This is the big one. The mistake is holding on to a losing trade, just refusing to sell, and sometimes even buying more as the price drops, averaging down. And it's all driven by this desperate hope that somehow it's all going to turn around.
Man, does this sound familiar? It's that little voice in your head, right? It whispers, look, if you sell now, that loss becomes real. But if you just hang on a little bit longer, maybe it'll bounce back. You can get out at break even. This right here is the trap.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. What starts as a tiny, manageable loss, just a little paper cut, it gets ignored. And by refusing to just put a Band-Aid on it and take the small hit, you let it get infected. You let it turn into a massive, account-threatening wound.
So you have to understand, this isn't a logical decision. It's not a financial one either. It's purely psychological. And to fix it, we have to understand what's actually going on inside our own heads when we're staring at a losing trade.
So why? Why do we do this? If it's so obviously a bad idea, why is it such a universal struggle for traders? Well, it turns out our brains are quite literally hardwired to work against us when it comes time to cut a loss.
The main reason for this is a powerful cognitive bias called loss aversion. Psychological studies have shown pretty conclusively that the pain you feel from losing $100 is about twice as intense as the joy you feel from gaining that same $100. We are wired to avoid pain way more than we are to seek pleasure. And you can see that imbalance right here. Look at how much bigger that pain of loss bar is. When you're in a losing trade, your brain is just screaming, "Danger! Avoid this pain!" And what's the easiest way to avoid the immediate pain of realizing that loss? Simple. You just don't sell. You pretend it isn't real yet.
So let's be crystal clear about what's happening. When you're holding on to that loser, your brain isn't doing a financial calculation. It's making an emotional one. It's trying to protect your ego from the feeling of being wrong, from admitting defeat. It's literally protecting your pride at the direct expense of your wallet.
Okay, so this isn't just theory. Let's look at a real-world story of how this exact bias can play out and how that little paper cut can turn into a complete disaster. So, the story starts right here. A trade goes against the trader, and it's down about 8%. Totally manageable, right? The rules say to cut it and move on. But that loss aversion kicks in, and instead of selling, he thinks, hey, it's cheap now, I'll buy more. But, of course, the stock keeps falling. Now the position is down 20%. The pain is way worse, the emotional attachment is so much stronger, and that hope for recovery becomes a total obsession. He's digging for any piece of news to justify his decision to just hold on.
And this is the final result. The stock completely tanks. He finally gives up and sells, booking a brutal 45% loss. That one single trade, that one decision to not take a small loss, it completely wiped out 2 full months of profits. Gone. This is probably the biggest lesson from that story. You have to think of small, planned losses as the cost of doing business. They're like tuition fees you pay to the market to learn what works. But letting those small cuts turn into massive wounds, that's what kills your account. That's what kills your confidence. So, we've identified the problem, we've seen just how much damage it can do, but the good news is there is a simple, straightforward antidote. So let's break down the 3 steps you can take to stop this mistake in its tracks. Here's the playbook. Number 1, decide your stop loss first. Before you even click the buy button, you need to know exactly where you're getting out if you're wrong, and that number is non-negotiable. 2, reduce your position size.
If the thought of taking that pre-planned loss makes your stomach churn, you've bet too big. It's that simple. Trade smaller until the loss feels like no big deal. And 3, journal your trades. Write down your plan. This holds you accountable and pulls the emotion out of the decision-making process.
Look, this requires a huge mental shift. The best traders on the planet take losses all the time. The goal is not to be right 100% of the time. That's impossible. The real goal is to stop making emotional mistakes. Losses are just part of the game. Big, uncontrolled losses don't have to be.
And that brings us to our final takeaway. And honestly, this is a powerful idea that can completely change how you think about losing in the market. Just think about that for a second. The very first moment you realize a trade isn't working, that small initial loss is the cheapest possible price you will ever pay to get out of that mistake. Every second you hesitate, the price goes up. Your first loss is always your best loss. Take it, book it, and move on to the next opportunity with your capital and, just as important, your mindset fully intact.